all-time high after all-time high, Bitcoin continues to shoot the lights out as 100K beckons. Corporations feeling the FOMO. Familiar faces are still stacking sats as new buyers hover on the sidelines. The Great Awakening, coins and tokens from previous cycles defy the FUD to post massive gains. Team Trump assembles. The incoming administration starts to take shape as crypto bids farewell to its bitterest enemy. And a look at last week's top performing cryptos, dates for your diary, tweets of the week, coins to watch, your comments, and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live.
GM, afternoon or evening, and welcome to another episode of the Coin Bureau Weekly News Live. I'm, of course, Nick, joining you guys from the Coin Bureau HQ in Dubai. Guy, where are you?
Yeah, I haven't got quite such a glamorous locale this week. I know it looks like my parents-in-law's spare bedroom, but I am actually over at Mar-a-Lago consulting with the incoming Trump administration on all things crypto. They've just put me in a sort of rather one of the plainer rooms.
The servants' room.
Yeah, basically. So I'm hoping for an upgrade sooner rather than later.
Once you get that appointment as a crypto czar, you will be upgraded. Don't worry.
Well, that's what I'm banking on, Nick. That is what I'm very much banking on. Yeah, it's good to be back. Let's start with a quick bit of housekeeping, folks. Big apologies for last week's stream, or rather lack thereof. We had some, as anyone who watched will know, we had some audio issues that were not, that was a result of the streaming software we were using. It was very frustrating. So I'm sorry that the sound quality wasn't up to scratch. Should be better this week. So we will make up for it. But at least we are going live on another day when it's looking good for crypto. We are around just over 98K last time I checked. That 100K benchmark is still in place. Do you agree, Nick? Or
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's definitely going to be a big point of resistance, which we'll get into a bit. But yeah, it's such a pivotal moment, I think. And obviously, last week we went across a previous all-time high. That obviously brings us to the first news story, right? So we broke through all-time highs, got to as high as 99.6 or something, just within a whisker. But no, the fated liquidation gods did not approve. But why were we rallying last week? Well, I mean, firstly and most importantly, let's look at those ETF inflows. Massive, right? We saw every single day had massive inflows. 1 billion on Thursday. Obviously, the ETF bidders just coming back in, combination of retail and institutional. Obviously, this impacts on the spot buying and volumes. And also another important record was reached last week where we had over 100 billion in ETF AUM. So that's another big record. But it's not just optimism in the spot market with the ETF buyers. We've also had last week, we had record high in CME open interest. Now, CME futures open interest, obviously, massive rally in terms of the open interest there and last week, which is obviously institutional buyers, most on the institutional side who are buying CME futures. So this is a massive rally in terms of obviously higher open interest, bullish slant. And then we also had last week coincide with exchange balances were falling and they're at their lowest. That's next chart. The exchange balances are near their lowest level as well, which obviously means there could be a supply shock incoming. And this is obviously the CME open interest right now. The growth we saw last week in context of where we'd seen in daily averages, which is very high. And then, of course, the next chart we've got is the exchange balances, which had been falling and almost near record lows. So there's supply shock could be incoming. So that's a lot of what drove price action last week. But of course, the biggest news of last week was the much vaunted launch of the spot Bitcoin ETF options on IBIT.
Yeah. Now you talked about this a few times in previous streams, and I mean, you said this would be a big deal. You talked about this idea of a gamma squeeze. I'm not. You can tell me whether you think we've actually reached that situation yet. But you said it was going to be big, and I gather that the trading volume on the very first day for these things, for these options, was was kind of unheard of, just shy of $2 billion. Is that right?
Just shy of $2 billion, 1.9 billion traded on the first day. And what's also interesting about this, not only the amount traded, but from the perspective of the positioning of these options, at least the majority of them were call options, right? So at least 82% of the options traded in the first day or two were call options, which obviously call options are the option to buy an asset at a later stage, the more bullish view. But coming back to your point around the gamma squeeze, I don't think that this was a gamma squeeze last week. It was just the options launching. Gamma squeezes happen around expiry dates when an option is in the money and the dealers have to go out and hedge their delta. Now, delta is obviously the way the price of the option reacts to an increase in the spot price. And Bitcoin is a very unique asset in the sense that as we get more in the money, the delta increases faster than a second derivative of the delta, which is the Vanna, some Greek, it increases faster. Right. Therefore means they need to go into the market and actually hedge that. The option dealers need to go into the market and hedge that. And usually they'll go and buy spot Bitcoin because they're getting long exposure to Bitcoin to hedge out if they short options. And in these particular moments where you have these expiries and there's this massive rally in Bitcoin, they need to go out more and more and they face this gamma squeeze where they squeeze to be able to, and they'll need to buy more and more spot to be able to hedge their delta, right? And this is actually something in TradFi often. We saw the Robinhood, remember that GameStop in the GameStop days, where not only was squeeze on the stock, but also in the options, because all these retail buyers were buying options, right? And given that these IBIT options are probably going to be listed as well on Robinhood and these retail apps. So retail investors may, face another gamma squeeze. So it's definitely one of these things that could, and it's not just from the perspective of price action, these gamma squeezes, options markets will have created a lot of opportunity, more liquidity, because these option dealers bring liquidity when they're selling in and out of the options. And it's obviously a major step for it because it's unlike previous novel options on Bitcoin that they've had, like Deribit and Ledger X and all these. These are no collateral risk because it's cleared through the OCC, the Options Clearing Corporation. So it's a big step for Bitcoin.
Okay. And I mean, as we see in kind of traditional markets, relative to the underlying asset themselves, I mean, derivatives markets are vast, aren't they? They tend to get that, or they can get a lot bigger than the actual underlying asset.
Exactly, yeah, and it's better for the institutions like the options market because it allows for a lot more bespoke strategies to be developed, right? Structured products, banks, like big investment banks can now actually go and develop structured products around these ETFs that generate yield or work on protection of options of their positions. So that was the option stuff. But before we move on, I quickly want to touch on now, obviously, we did have a bit of a fall from 99K. And where are we now in terms of price action, not necessarily related to the options, but also where we in terms of price action and where could we be going? And one thing to note is obviously when you reach an all-time high like that, all the long-term holders are in profit. So long-term holder supply was all in profit, right? And naturally, you're going to get to these levels, and especially as we approach 100K, long-term holders are going to start taking a bit of profit, which is what has happened over the past 3 or 4 days. On top of this, we've got to look at also the order books. So the liquidity pools is another tool which you can use on this site called Trading Different. And Mariano, who's on a Coin Bureau Trading, by the way, if you guys unsubscribe to that, that's at Coin Bureau Trading channel. That's got all this analysis. But you can see the amount of vast liquidity pools. That's basically the heat map up there at the 100K level. And that's basically where a lot of the liquidity is, which means that once we hit that 100K level, there's going to be a lot of selling again, right? And that's what's seen in the order books, right? So it is going to be a resistance point, this 100K level. Also, one thing to note as well, it's an interesting analysis that came through this morning. It's around the distribution of the orders, right, in terms of the buy-sell orders. So we've got this chart here, which shows basically the percentage here of the 1% level of the skew between the spot buy and sell on the order books, and it's now at a pretty high level in terms of sells at the 100K level versus buys. So that's something to note as well. So we've got more sell side liquidity than buy side around the 100K level. So it's going to be tough to break through the 100K, but once we do break through those walls of liquidity, when new retail does start coming back in, things could turn around.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems that, I mean, I've seen people, whose opinions I generally respect a lot, saying, the road to 100K is going to be tough, but kind of after that, potentially, it could really sort of run and run, that sense of kind of breaking through that 100K wall. And then you almost have, to an extent, kind of a clear field beyond that.
Exactly. So that's it. So that's just the one hurdle to get through. But we'll, let's see. Maybe by the end of this week, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And well, I should mention as well that Bitcoin dominance has slipped. So our friend Ben Cowan will be watching that with interest. But I mean, could that be a sense that perhaps we're going to see some rotation into altcoins? I mean, we already have, I think, which we're going to talk about a little later on.
Yeah, some old season alts are the rotations going down there. Not where everyone was hoping, but there's rotation. Some slight rotation.
I'm looking forward to getting to that. So don't worry, folks. We will be talking about some of those altcoins that have been pumping. We've got a whole section devoted to it. Before we do, though, I just want to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff happening kind of in the wider crypto market. And this is, again, still largely focused on Bitcoin. And this is the idea that corporate accumulation is continuing in some senses, but we also get the feeling that perhaps it's only just getting started. So it's worth sort of starting with perhaps the most obvious news ever is that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, guess what, have been buying more Bitcoin.
He's been buying more Bitcoin? I wouldn't have known.
Who would have thought it? It's absolutely crazy. That guy just will not quit. So MicroStrategy, they're now holding, I think it's something in the region of 331,000 BTC. MicroStrategy actually issued notes in order to buy more. Which is a pretty clever strategy, Nick. I mean, can you kind of talk us through the thinking here? What exactly are MicroStrategy doing here?
So basically, what's really interesting with MicroStrategy is it trades at a 275% premium to net asset value, right? So this is called the MSTR premium, which basically means that Michael Saylor, in terms of the shares, right, they trade at higher than the actual value of the assets, the Bitcoin underlying. So therefore means from an arbitrage perspective, Michael Saylor makes sense for him to go while the markets are valuing my MSTR equity so highly, to go out and just issue more equity, get dollars for the equity, buy Bitcoin. And that's what he's doing. And these notes are convertible notes. So basically, in a few years' time, they can be converted. The other, 51.7 Bitcoin he picked up, 57K Bitcoin he picked up last week were just straight off equity offering. So he just issued equity, and then paper bought the equity, and then he used the equity to buy Bitcoin. So as long as that premium exists, he's going to keep on just doing it, and potentially this week as well. So I don't exactly know why there's such a massive premium. I mean, why people are bidding MicroStrategy stock. I mean, it was last week. There was one of the days. It was trading. It had one of the most highest volumes in terms of stock trading volume on the day. But yeah, as long as there is this premium from an arbitrage perspective, it makes sense for him just to go and issue that stock, take the cash, buy Bitcoin. And only once it closes or becomes parity with the net asset value to the share, because there is no other. Sorry, I mean, in terms of there's no other business value in terms of MicroStrategy apart from its Bitcoin holders. I mean, I don't know if it's got some product or something, but from an equity analysis perspective, I don't really see where else the value is coming from apart from just this insatiable appetite to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean, people are taking Saylor up on this offer, aren't they? I mean, Allianz, which I think is Germany's largest insurance company, probably one of the largest in the world. They purchased a big chunk, almost a quarter of these notes that MicroStrategy issued.
Can we just take a second to appreciate, Guy, that a German insurance company, one of the most conservative countries in Europe, is buying 24% of MicroStrategy's debt. It's insane.
Yeah. Obviously, they're going on the reverse trade of what the German government did, which is looking like a worse and worse trade as time goes on, doesn't it? But I mean, who knows? Maybe that could have been the moment when sort of big investors across Germany, German companies or whatever, sort of realised it's like, hang on a sec, we should probably be doing the opposite to this. So, I mean, Allianz hasn't necessarily bought, they haven't gone out and bought spot Bitcoin. yet, but they're getting this kind of proxy exposure through MicroStrategy.
And the MicroStrategy bonds, all of they're zero interest, right? So he's not having to pay an interest because they have the option for conversion later on, and they've been performing very well. So even if you buy bonds, they've been performing well. And here's another interesting stat as well in terms of over the last year, in terms of stock that's had the best Sharpe ratio. So Sharpe ratio is a term for it's basically the risk-adjusted rewards. So that the rewards in terms of returns versus the risk and volatility terms. MicroStrategy in terms of the stock and the stock market in the US had the best Sharpe ratio, risk-adjusted returns of all stocks. So crazy.
Wow. I should have. Did you see that? Did you see that tweet? Or someone dug up a headline. I think it was this week. I should have saved the tweet where it was from back in the 90s, where Saylor lost sort of 6 billion or something. MicroStrategy had a crash or something like that. It's like a picture of a very young and rather pissed off looking Saylor, and just sort of just basically calling him the comeback king, comeback of the century.
100%, man. Well, credit to him, I mean,
Yeah.
and because he only really started. He was at first a skeptic, right? I believe he was a skeptic. He previously was a skeptic, and in 2020 we started buying him in 2020, 2021, something like that. Just started accumulating. So crazy.
Yeah. But we should mention as well, obviously, it's not just MicroStrategy. And well, whilst we're on the topic, well, let's get first. Some of the more obvious names buying Bitcoin are the likes of Marathon, which is a Bitcoin mining company. So maybe that's not such a surprise that that they're also kind of doubling down. And then we also have Semler Scientific and Metaplanet, this Japanese company. Both of them are kind of doubling down on Bitcoin as well. But there is a sort of potential big buyer waiting in the wings. Now, there's been a lot of speculation on this. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this, Nick, as to whether this is going to happen. But this sort of ties into what we're talking about with Michael Saylor. Microsoft could potentially be allocating some of their absolutely massive cash pile to BTC.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a shareholder vote in December coming up. I think the board has asked the shareholders to vote against it. Michael Saylor has offered to speak to Satya Nadella. I think he tweeted at him or something. Maybe Michael Saylor can convince them. Maybe convince them to change their tune. So it's a shareholder vote. So it depends on what the shareholders are going to decide. I mean, if it does happen. I mean, if not, look. Even if it doesn't happen, the fact that this has been brought up to a vote on a public company, one of the biggest tech companies in the US, is a step in and of itself. And if we do start seeing an allocation, I mean, especially if we start seeing things like the Bitcoin Reserve, and you see more pro-crypto regulations and more acceptance in terms of the Overton window and what Bitcoin is in terms of the society, and tech companies start allocating their cash to Bitcoin, you know how much cash companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google are sitting on, insane amounts. So I think that it's a big move. Look, even if it doesn't happen, I think it's 10th of December. I don't know the exact date, but once when that vote comes to it, it's still the fact that it's there, that they're having the vote. It's a big move.
Yeah. I always think of Satoshi's quote, which we've got framed in the office somewhere. It might make sense just to get some in case it catches on.
Just a rainy day fund. Just get a rainy day fund of stack your sats.
Yeah. I think Saylor should just barrel into the Microsoft boardroom with that and just say, just go from there. It's like, look, guys, just get it while you can. Get it while you can, or I will.
Yeah, otherwise I'm going to buy it. MicroStrategy's stock, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings are worth more than the cash balances on Dell's balance sheet. It's also crazy.
Wow.
And Michael Dulles himself, he's flirted with the idea of his question or asked about Bitcoin on Twitter as well. So he's pondering it. So maybe this could be the impetus that gets him across the line.
Yeah. Well, it feels very much like a question of when, not if. So this is exciting times, and as you said, Nick, you mentioned the possibility of a strategic reserve, and that if that does happen, then obviously you get nation states involved as well. But it feels like we're definitely a long way past the stage of then they laugh at you. It's we're in different waters now. Okay, folks. Before we talk about some of the big gainers from last week, look, I'm going to take a guess from reading through the comments. I think that includes some of your bags. But before we talk about those, I've just got to remind you guys: if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do go ahead, join the merry throng. Please do drop us a like as well. Yeah, likes are important. We like likes. We're big fans of likes here. Yes, so please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. But it is always, of course, lovely to see so many familiar faces in the comments as well. Oh, look, Nick's got the things there. There we are.
And the bell as well. There we go.
Bring the bell, yeah. Why not? Yeah. Beautiful bell, most beautiful bell. Okay, so let's talk. Let's talk about everyone in the comments bag, shall we? Because I mean, this was I've been watching the charts this week, and it's just like it's such a strange feeling to see all these, all these. Let's just call them what they are: dino coins. These coins that have been around in some cases for a very long time. It's just been extraordinary to see them rallying so damn hard. Because, and I know, I know from keeping an eye on crypto Twitter and some of the sort of Telegram groups that I'm in and stuff like that. Like there are some pretty there are people in the trenches who are just so confused by this. Like this has flipped the script for a lot of people, and I must say it's flipped the script for me because I did not see this coming. But so this is extraordinary. I mean, Nic, talk us through some of these. What's been pumping?
Well, firstly, I want to say, I think I put a nice tweet out. It's like, good news. Retail is here. The only difference is they bid in the bags they had in 2017 or 2018. They bid in what they know. But yeah, I mean, so we really started seeing some of this earlier, about 2 weeks ago. Some of it, to be honest, there is rationale for why they're rallying, right? And they rallied prior to the waking up in the past 3-4 days of some of these other coins. But for one, we can start with what's XRP, right? And like I say, it was rallying over the past week or so. And like there's news, obviously, because of the fact that from a regulatory perspective, the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple could probably be dropping pretty soon, especially if we get a pro-crypto commissioner. And it's probably been a thorn in the side of XRP for a long time. And that's obviously driving some positive news. There's also potentially Brad Goldenhouse talked with Trump. There was rumors about that. So that was also bullish news that drove some of the that was a bit of a catalyst about a week ago. And then also there were also these multiple ETF filings. There's Bitwise, there's Canary Capital, 21 shares. So there is many more bullish catalysts on the XRP side. And, I think that this is obviously driving a lot of the excitement in there, right? And breaking through key levels as well for XRP. And obviously the XRP army is strong and, they're passionate about the potential for XRP to be utilized. Whether you think it's going to be utilized as a settlement currency and for all the banks around the world is a different discussion. But yeah, I think that's part of the reason it's driving the excitement. And obviously, if the SEC the lawsuit does drop, it opens up a lot more opportunity for XRP to be listed on many more US exchanges, and then of course clears the way for the ETFs.
Yeah, just a couple of points to add to what you were saying, Nic. I mean, we've heard a lot about potential altcoin ETFs, spot ETFs coming, soon, maybe 2025. And actually, I think Solana was talked about for a long time as the sort of natural next in line. I'm kind of, at the moment, I don't know whether it's just because XRP is pumping so much, but I'm seeing sort of a lot more talk about maybe the next one being XRP. So maybe it's just because it's got the mind share at the moment, but there does certainly seem to be a lot of momentum behind it. And as you say, there have been those kind of filings for it. And of course, what we haven't mentioned and what we're going to talk about a little later on is that obviously Ripple will be celebrating perhaps more than anyone the fact that the Dark Lord himself, Gary Gensler, has decided to take a bow. Do you think they sent him a well-wishing card?
I think so. Yeah. Gary GG's on his way out. Yeah.
GG. Good luck at your new job. It's. I imagine there will have been a fair bit of champagne popped around Ripple HQ when Gary announced that. But we'll talk about that a little later on. Let's
Not
move
so
on
much for
though.
Chris Larson, though. I'm sure he was not too happy about that.
No, Chris Larson, perhaps. Yeah, that next Ripple board meeting could be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about XLM though, because XRP has had a week. XLM. In fact, I think not to give too much of a spoiler, but I think it may actually be last week's top performer.
Yeah, even more so than XRP, crazy. Right?
Yeah,
high beta play on XRP. I think there's obviously there's a few reasons why it could be happening, but I think it's also just a very high beta play on XRP.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a couple of things to say about XLM beyond obviously Stellar and Ripple. Stellar is a kind of offshoot of Ripple in a way. Jed McCaleb left Ripple and went on to found Stellar. There's no relationship between the two companies, but they sort of inhabit the same space. And I think there have been rumors perhaps about Stellar being used for FedNow, but I mean, I haven't seen anything confirmed about that. So that's just a rumor. But I mean, in market conditions like these, rumors can be enough. However, I think the big reason that we've seen such a pump for XLM is our friends in South Korea.
The South Korean degens there.
The South Korean degens, yeah. If you look at this, the biggest market for XLM has been the Korean won pair over on Upbit. Do not fade. Do not underestimate the importance of the South Korean degens. If they want to pump something, they will pump it. So I think that's probably the big reason for XLM's outperformance this week. However, I should mention that Grayscale has increased its holdings in XLM fairly significantly as well. So there is perhaps slightly more to it than just South Koreans max bidding. And I should to give Stellar its due, there is actually quite a lot going on that blockchain. They are fairly active in the payment space. I think they have a lot. Some of the apps built on top of Stellar are sort of quite popular in places like East Africa and are used in the US and Europe as well. So it's not to say that Stellar and XLM are pumping sort of undeservedly, but I mean, I think the South Koreans have certainly helped in that regard.
It is interesting to actually it's unfortunate that we only realize now when the price pumps that you got to go and look at what's happening within the Stellar ecosystem. And I mean, the fact that they're working on these apps and building this tech for, especially in emerging markets, right, doesn't get the news and attention that other cryptocurrencies does. And Danielle Dixon, who's been there for years, like 5 years, and she's actually still actively in the trenches building on the Stellar. So it's interesting for sure to learn that there is a lot of excitement taking place in these blockchains.
Good to check in with some of these guys. We're so hypnotized by all the sort of funky new projects hitting the market, but some of these old guys are still about. Speaking of which, Cardano has had a lot of mind share this week. ADA has also done pretty well. I don't think it's one of the top gainers this week, but it certainly has been in previous weeks. And I think Charles Hoskinson, who let's face it, is probably the dream frontman for a crypto project. I mean, he's such a good sort of spokesman and marketer for Cardano, isn't he? And he's been kind of fairly visible as around the Trump administration. He's sort of talked in kind of glowing terms about what they might be able to achieve, and I think he was sort of talked about, potentially rumored as potentially sort of advising them on crypto as well. And I don't think it was necessarily to be this crypto czar that they're talking about, but he did say on one of his live streams that he was going to be advising the administration, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to speculate, for sure. So also he posted a picture in front of a SpaceX rocket, and he's working a lot with Elon. And there was also, I believe, at Cardano Summit here in Dubai, NASA was there. So if you really want to speculate, could Cardano be doing something with the US government on that front, the Space Force or whatnot? But Yeah, I mean, obviously, there is stuff taking place. Obviously, it's a hardcore community. And I mentioned, like we did 2 weeks ago, we covered in the stream, talked about what's happening with Cardano and the Bitcoin ecosystem with this bridge as well. So and obviously this leads to excitement in Cardano's ecosystem, but then also a more bullish outlook, and that's where we could see, for instance, on the futures, ADA futures funding level, futures open interest reach levels not seen since 2021, and I recall that 2021 that was when ADA reached the $3 level. That was way back then.
Yeah. And Cardano is sort of taking steps towards encouraging development in its ecosystem as well. I think they have a panel of judges that are able to sort of vote on early stage projects, and of course that's hugely important for any L1, isn't it? They've got to grow that. It's about having an ecosystem and having liquidity. So ecosystem projects, and as you mentioned, that partnership with Bitcoin OS, is going to be good for liquidity in Cardano's ecosystem. So and I have to give Cardano credit as well for throwing some shade at Sui last week.
They didn't mention them by name. They didn't mention them by name, to be fair. They could be referring to any blockchain that went down, but I think that was the biggest news story at that particular point in time. So,
it just so happened to come out on the same day, shortly after it was announced.
It was in the drafts, Guy. It was probably in the drafts, kind of like thinking, okay, when is any of these other new L1s going to come out and break? Is it going to be Solana? Is it going to be Sui, Aptos? Okay, well, we'll push it whenever. First one goes down. Probably got another one set up, ready to go for the next.
Yeah. The Cardano intern just sitting there, just like, eventually, bang! There we are. So, another good week for Cardano. All right, there's still a couple to talk about, and I've seen lots of comments about them as well. Hedera has had a good week, and in fact,
working on DAGs before it was fashionable.
Yeah.
The hash graph. I mean, the only thing I really, I mean, obviously there's news around, there was speculation because he'd been back and forth with Charles on Twitter, Limon Bad. Then there was also an ETF filing by Canary Capital, same ones who filed the Ripple ones or XRP ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's excitement happening. I mean, obviously, HBAR also, because it has this different, structure in terms of not a blockchain, it's a hash graph. It's more like a DAG structure, way more performant in terms of that's what the proponents say of it. And there's also increase in partnerships they've been doing. They did one recently, increase in the membership council, the governing council of Hedera, with all these enterprises, and one of them was Aberdeen, which leveraging their DLT technology for tokenized real world assets. Obviously, the RWA narrative is big. So.
Aberdeen that decided to remove all the vowels from their branding.
At first, I was like, "What?" I didn't know what this company was, and then you told me it was rebranded. I'm like, "This is almost as bad as Jaguar Land Rover." What are you guys doing? I mean, is this like
something seems to have happened to you, Nic, over the last couple of years. You just seem to be, I don't know, you seem to be getting more and more intolerant of stupid stuff like rebranding. I'm pretty sure when I first knew you, you'd be a bit more chilled about this stuff. I think you're getting old, man.
Why kill a good brand like Jaguar? Why? Who's going to want to buy a nice XKR or like the F-Type when we're looking at this, what they've got there? And then also similarly, I trusted Aberdeen. Like, I know they're an established Scottish institution, I'm going to be investing with them. Now I've got this thing without vowels in it. What am I supposed to do with this?
Well, Jaguar, if you're listening, Nic was probably going to buy one of your cars now. He's not anymore.
Cancel the order.
I'm sure maybe they'll change it back. Okay, so that is Hedera, another good week for them, and a couple more to talk about. VeChain. Could you? I couldn't really find anything particularly, any particular catalyst for VET pumping, but that didn't stop it pumping.
We did push a tweet actually, asking people themselves to set, let us know what they thought was causing it. It's a lot of interesting feedback there, but it is just speculation, right? And I also do wonder, part of me is like, people say, okay, could this be retail theory of, is retail waking up and bidding the coins they knew? But part of it could also be perception is reality, where crypto natives think, okay, if retail is going to come back, they're going to open their Robinhood apps, they're going to open their Coinbase, they're going to buy these coins because they listed there. So it could be kind of like crypto natives, believe in their own thesis and investing based on that. So, that's potentially what it could be as well. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint what's happening on the VeChain ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, I think, obviously there is stuff happening with all of these, with all of these cryptos. Development is still ongoing, and in some cases they have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. But at the same time, I think this is almost certainly a fact that a lot of retail have kind of re-engaged for the first time in a while and have started bidding what they know, what they remember from last cycle, what they perhaps already hold, maybe adding to those bags as well. And of course, as Dan pointed out in our CBC members Discord, some of these coins would have been sort of among the most shorted out there as well. So that with just a little bit of a pump could probably have been exacerbated by the fact that a lot of shorts were getting wiped out on them.
Yeah, also if the futures funding rates are running hot, people could run in like a cash and carry trade, where basically earning the carry on some of the hot futures funding rates. Some of these people who've been bullish. So yeah, that could be a factor as well for sure. And even Atom, man, Atom. Can you believe it? The eternal stable coin.
Yeah. Atom, which had done absolutely nothing. Things are getting crazy when Atom's starting to move.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, happy days, because I mean, this all contribute. Everyone's happy. Their bags are going up. It's definitely contributing to improved sentiment. But of course, one of the things that's improved sentiment a lot is the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, Gary Gensler, crypto's public enemy number one, has announced that he is stepping down to a chorus of not exactly tears, but abuse, mostly on Twitter. Some of the replies.
I mean, honestly, I don't think he checks his Twitter. I could never. I don't know if I could be the same human being afterwards. If I was, if I was Gary Gensler, I read the stuff people were saying about me in the tweets, I would not be the same human being. I was like, yeah, I got to ask yourself, like, was it worth it? Like, what was his end goal? I mean, okay, I think potentially people thought, hey, he wanted to become a Treasury Secretary, and if he appeased Elizabeth Warren and the anti-crypto crowd and the anti-crypto army, that it would help streamline the process of becoming Treasury Secretary. But yeah, was it worth it? Because he's definitely not going to get a job in a. I think even it's not just in crypto, right? Because he was also very much some of the policies the SEC, some of the cases the SEC was pursuing around specifically like ESG mandates, that kind of stuff. It was in TradFi as well. They weren't very happy with him. And his name has been besmirched so badly in the election that I don't know if he's going to be able to find any sort of post work in TradFi, or maybe even like blockchain education at MIT. I think he's killed that opportunity, but I think he's also got a lot of money, so I don't think he really will worry too much.
Yeah. Well, goodbye, good luck, and good riddance to someone I think who's probably, along with Elizabeth Warren, done more to hold this industry back than almost anyone else. So yeah, and I mean, crypto itself, the whole market celebrated that, and as we talked about with XRP and so many others, this is such good news. It's worth mentioning as well that one of the other Democrat SEC commissioners also stepped down at the same time. Jamie Lizarraga is also on his way out. I don't think he was necessarily too anti-crypto.
No, it wasn't like one thing. He had one statement some time back, like being risky, but that's it.
Yeah. I mean, given what some of the others have said, that's almost enough to make him a crypto bull. But of course, that opens up another potential pro spot for a pro crypto commissioner to be appointed. So it's all change at the SEC, which is very encouraging. And it's worth mentioning too that the speculation around who might take over from Gary is going on. One consideration who's gained a bit of traction over the last week or so is Teresa Goody Gillen. I think, or Guilen. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that last name, but yeah, she's now being talked about as well. I think Brian Brooks's name is still very much in the frame too. So hopefully this is something that we'll know fairly soon, because I think a bit of certainty around who's going to lead that agency would be healthy for the market.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not just the SEC that's seen some really big anti-crypto crusaders stepping down. The FDIC chair, Gus Gurenberg chap, he was Greenberg, he was also instrumental in Operation Choke Point 2.0. And rumors about them trying to force banks to offload their crypto business and doing it in a dodgy fashion, basically on call, so it's not recorded. So, and there were stories about toxic workplace environment there anyway. So anyway, it's probably good for everyone inside the FDIC and everyone in the crypto industry. Banks can now also, they're not going to be debanking crypto companies anymore because the FDIC is losing one of the anti-crypto crusaders.
Yeah. So that's good news. More good news follows. We've got a pro-crypto nominee for the Treasury. This is a hedge fund manager called Scott Bessent, who has been who's been put forward as Treasury Secretary. This was the job that a lot of people thought Howard Lutnick was going to be proposed for, but more about Howard Lutnick in a sec. But Bessent has been vocally kind of supportive of digital assets, so I think a friend in that would be a friend in a very high place.
He would be. He's also, fun fact, used to work at Soros. He worked with Soros at Soros Fund Management. Is also quite instrumental in the massive trade of that billion dollar profit on shorting the pound. So he's.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's one of those guys who helped impoverish us Brits, was he?
Yeah, he's there. Exactly, him and Soros. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting though, because Soros is viewed by many on the left as, or on the right as like, so it's interesting that he was there. But
yeah. Okay, so that's a potentially very bullish appointment at the Treasury. Meanwhile, back to Howard Lutnick. He is being, I think he's been put forward for Commerce Secretary. And Howard Lutnick, obviously, those who are unfamiliar with him, he is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, this big Wall Street firm that is custodying the assets backing USDT. And these guys recently, they just picked up a 5% stake in Tether, Cantor Fitzgerald, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think this is more of a strategic move, smart move, like a gigabrain move by Tether. I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating. This is my speculation, but I would assume that they would have given in those shares at a big discount, because from a strategic perspective, if one of your shareholders, 5% shareholder, minority shareholder, is literally the Commerce Secretary, no, goodbye to all that Tether fight. Tether Truth is on life support. None more, no one have to worry about that. So yeah, probably a very, very strategic chess move by them if that's what happened.
Yeah, and a very good move for Cantor Fitzgerald, given how absolutely insanely profitable Tether is.
And they're making millions from custody in the Treasury, so he's making money on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, $2.5 billion Q3 profits for Tether. Moving on, another crypto OG, or very popular figure in the industry, Brian Armstrong. There's talk that he is going to meet with Trump, if he hasn't already, to discuss sort of crypto and crypto appointments. I mean, this as well would be, just the news that this is happening, which would have been unthinkable, I think, under the Biden administration. And this is bullish in and of itself.
Yeah, and I think he's probably one of the best candidates to put there, to be honest. I think that, yes, he does run an exchange, but the fact that Trump is wanting to, and there's also this talk of this crypto czar kind of thing, and I think that this is something that, just completely unthinkable in the Biden administration, right? What a shift. What a shift. That's why I say this Overton window in terms of what cryptocurrency is to the broader society is just completely shifted.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, because obviously Trump and his campaign received a lot of money from the crypto industries. So, there's kind of a sense now that the crypto industry as a whole, and some of the big players in that, are kind of now looking for what they get in return. And of course, if that takes the form of regulatory clarity, if that takes the form of, well thought out regulations, that's going to be absolutely huge for crypto.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, and the last thing around the incoming administration is this. Again, we talked about this a couple of times before. In Charles Hoskinson is one of the ones whose name came up for this, but this is the idea of a dedicated crypto post at the White House, a crypto czar, or whatever you would call them. And again, this is the sort of thing that just would have been absolutely unthinkable. So it'd be quite interesting to see who would get that. Who would you put forward for that post, Nic?
I mean, I think it would be ideal for Brian Armstrong. I know that many of the Cardano fans want Charles Hoskins to be it, but I don't know. I think it's potentially the best candidate would be Brian Armstrong. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Brian Armstrong.
Wrong answer,
I mean, the only thing I think about putting something like Brian Armstrong or Charles Hoskinson in this post is that, like, these guys have already got like big stuff going on. Brian Armstrong running Coinbase. I mean, that must be a 25-hour a day job. Charles doing everything that he does with Cardano, plus all his Bison and Blackhawk related stuff. I think he's also, as you said, quite interested in space as well.
I think the top tier candidate would be Baron Trump. Defy. He's a DeFi pro. He's in crypto. He's got hundreds of wallets apparently. So so far.
I mean, it seems he's already basically been advising his old man on crypto anyway. Perhaps Ryan Selkis. I mean, he came out pretty hard for
He was
Trump.
pretty pro Trump. Yeah, I don't think there was anybody in crypto who was more pro Trump than him. From what I saw. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I would say Ryan Selkis has probably earned it. So maybe that could be his next role. Okay, and I think there's also talk just before we move on to last week's top gainers. I think there's also talk that Trump may replace Rustin Benham at the CFTC, which would be an interesting move.
Because the CFTC hasn't been too anti-crypto, which is and he seems to. I've seen him generally be comments about him doing a good job. So that is interesting. But yeah,
let's see. I don't think there's. I think from the crypto industry, I don't think there's any sort of huge desire to see change there. But I guess this is a new administration. It's Republican rather than Democrat. So I guess perhaps wholesale change is not necessarily all that surprising. And we know how much Trump values loyalty, I think. So maybe he just wants someone he sort of knows and trusts there. Okay, so that's all the news items that we wanted to discuss today. Every single one of them basically bullish in their own way, even though we've seen a little bit of a retracement in price a bit over the last few days. It's been, last week was absolutely incredible for crypto. We're getting so close to that 100K mark. It's a question of if not when. But let's look at last week's top gainers, because like we've sort of covered this a lot. But just for those of you who are curious, the top gainers from last week were Stellar's XLM, as we've discussed. Next up was now I did not see this coming. The Sandbox.
The Sandbox. And Decentraland, right?
Decentraland. Now,
I pushed a tweet about this. I said, it's pretty interesting. It's like some of the biggest mysteries known to man. Area 51, Bermuda Triangle, JFK assassination, Bigfoot, MH370, why Decentraland and the Sandbox are pumping. We may never know.
I mean, I don't want to stick my neck out too far in this one, but I don't think it's because the metaverse is back.
I don't know, man. Maybe the meta is back. The metaverse is back. Who knows? Maybe they're transitioning. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Apple's about to change its name to Meta as well, or something equally outrageous. Again, I think going back to what we saw with some of those other big gainers, I think this is coming from South Korea again. A lot of volume on the likes of Upbit and BitHum for Mana and Sand. So once again, don't fade South Korea. Another big gainer last week, another one that we have not heard much from in recent years, and that's Tezos.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
X,
Crazy.
XTZ, yeah. Tezos again. Tezos raised an absolute ton of money at their ICO, didn't they? I mean, those guys are well capitalized.
They massive stacks of Bitcoin. They have massive stacks still sitting in their Swiss foundation. Yeah.
And Kathleen Brightman, who is one of the co-founders of Tezos, she was talking. She was reported in Decrypt recently talking about the change of regulations in the US. So Tezos is kind of still out there, still in the consciousness. So we'll have to watch for further development in their ecosystem. And finally, yet another old crypto makes up the list for last week's top gainers, and that is Polkadot.
Yeah, Polkadot, man. I mean, I know there's lots of stuff taking place within the Polkadot, this whole Polkadot 2.0 upgrade, but I don't think that was the main catalyst for the price action, to be honest. But there is stuff definitely from all of these coins we've talked about. I think that Polkadot's the one that's got the most activity taking place from a community and development perspective in terms of the top gainers specifically.
Yeah, and I think as we've seen from the comments and stuff, so many of these cryptos, even though they're sort of older ones, have been around for a very long time and still have very strong communities.
Yeah,
which always helps. Okay, a quick mention of a few coins to watch out for. Some big things coming up this week. So today, 25th of November, voting begins for, I'm not sure how you pronounce this, Jupiary. This is related to Jupiter on Solana. This is a big airdrop is supposedly in the works for Jup holders. So I think voting begins on that today. So that's something to watch.
This is taking place in February, I assume. Is that why? Yes. Why is it okay?
Yeah, I think. But yeah, the voting process begins today. Yeah. What have we got coming up for?
Number two. Well, tomorrow we've got Starknet. So they're launching STRK staking, launch on mainnet. So this is obviously an opportunity to create more use cases for their Stark token, which definitely needs more demand, given how badly it's been performing over the past few months out of that pretty contentious airdrop a few months ago, and it's a layer 2, but this is obviously creating great demand for it because people can now stake their Stark to earn more. So that's obviously coming on the November 26th. And then 30th of November, this is a very important one. We've talked about this a few times. We've got the Athena fee switch proposal. Now, this is something that Wintermute put through proposal. I think it was on the 5th of November to some of the protocol fees. Proposed portion of the protocol fees that the Athena protocol earns are used to reward stakers of ENA. So another demand case for ENA, and especially if the USDE growth continues and there's going to be more demand to stake ENA, this could be accruing back to the users. So this is natural value accrual to the ENA holders and stakers.
Yeah, and we did a review of Athena here on the main channel a couple of months ago now. I mean, that is definitely a project to watch, I think. 100%. For many reasons. Okay, and on the 30th of November, which is Friday, I believe, we have an unlock coming. This is 1inch, the DEX aggregator. This is 7.7% of 1inch's 1inch's circulating supply, which I believe is going to the team, to the 1inch team. But the good news is, I believe this is the final one for at least a while. Is that right, Nic?
I think it's the final cliff unlock of them all. So, it is a relatively large proportion of the circulating supply, but once it's out, it's out. And in terms of DeFi protocols, I think 1inch is pretty much up there with Uniswap in terms of OG Ethereum DeFi protocols, a strong building team. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I should point out as well, I've seen a couple of people, no less than James Bond, in fact, in the comments. Nice to know James is watching. Please mention the Sonic launch. This is obviously in a part of Phantom. I can't remember when Sonic is due to launch. It might actually be this week. So yeah, I'll have to do a bit more digging into that, James. Yeah. But thanks for raising that and keep up the good work. All right, Nic, what about dates for the diary?
Dates, diary. So Tuesday, we've got the release of the minutes of the Fed's most recent meeting, which I think was the first meeting that came post-Trump election. So it'll be interesting to see what Jerome and the fellow Fed governors are talking about and what they were saying and how their thinking may have evolved or will evolve, and what they're saying amongst themselves. So that's important, and people will be passing that in those talks. Then on Wednesday, we've got the so speaking of the Fed, there's the dual mandate, two important data points from the perspective of both job growth and employment, and then also inflation. We've got the initial jobless claims, 213,000 was the previous, and the consensus for this month is 215,000. So keep an eye on the consensus first and what comes out. And then we've also got the PCE index, so that's the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, the personal consumption index, expenditure index, which is 0.2 consensus, 0.2 previous, and then Q3 GDP as well.
And of course, on Thursday, it is Thanksgiving over in the United States, which is the time of year, that magical time of year, when in a bear market, people's crypto skeptic uncles make their day a living hell. And when in a bull market, like we're in at the moment, when prices are pumping, the boot is very much on the other foot. So to any Americans watching, I hope you have got your swagger perfected for Thursday when you go and hang out with the family.
They must also be relieved, so they're going to Thanksgiving, and that one uncle that you advised to buy Stella in 2017 Thanksgiving, he's finally in profit and he's smiling. He's no longer angry with you. What's the next coin I should buy?
See ya.
See you, young chap.
Yeah, what do I do? What do I do? You're a genius. Yeah, it's that, and that I love that. I love the meme that always appears at this time of year. Hey there, Mr. Investor. How are your coins doing? Yes, so well, a very happy Thanksgiving to all Americans in advance. But yeah, get that swagger on. You've got to own it. You've got to own it. This is your time. Doesn't happen very often. So you've got to go in there and make the most of it, and use that opportunity to orange pill your loved ones, your nearest and dearest.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, we will finish off with tweets of the week. So what do we got first?
Well, the most important tweet of them all. Oh, it got so much engagement. A tweet
Not
I never thought I would see.
Positive.
A tweet I never thought I would see. He even went in a thread. So many people replied with that response, and I ain't reading all that, but happy for you. Or sad, sucks that happened. All I needed to read was the first line. That's all we needed to read, guys. That's it.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Trust me, Gary.
Do not go.
Trust me, Gary. We don't care about the details. Yeah. You had us. I will be stepping down. That's all we need to know.
Could be a one-word tweet. Bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, obviously, great news, and something that the crypto community in the US and beyond has waited for a very, very long time. Okay. Next up, we have. Oh goodness! Nic, talk us through what happened here. This was a real only in crypto moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, we live in a simulation, man. Facilitated by Pump.Fun, which we'll get to in a bit. But the story is this: a 12-year-old kid launched a meme coin called Quant, and on live stream, fully doxed by the way, on live stream, he rugged it to make 30K, and he obviously flipped off the cameras and all this, and on the live stream, rugged the communities to make 30K. And CT got pissed and sent the market cap to 75 million. So he basically, not only did he, dox himself on live stream, but the opportunity cost of that was he could have made 2 million on it. So that's the one point of it. So that's happened, right? But also, they obviously he's doxed. They started spamming his mom's Instagram, and they basically created another meme coin with his entire family doxed, including his dog. They had his dog in they doxed the guy's dog and put it on the meme coin on Pump.Fun. It's just crazy, man. Now this kid, literally, his face is out there and all this, and and the worst part about it is not only all of that just to make 30K when you could have.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
The meme coin space, the Pump.Fun space is just going crazy these days.
Nic, I'm going to make a wager with you. I think I bet you 1 ETH, 1 whole ETH, that kid will be a main character next cycle. We ain't seen the last of him.
Oh yeah, he's going to invest that. He's going to invest that 30K wisely. He's going to go and trade meme coins up to 1 million or 2, and then he's going to become a main character. Exactly, launching memes all the way through. Him and his dog. They'll make a meme coin on his dog because his dog's fully doxed now. So it'll become the new Shiba dog.
Either he's just going to become another sort of obnoxious influencer, of which arguably I think we have a slight oversupply, or maybe he'll just launch his own project and go that way. But either way, I tell you, we haven't seen the last of that kid.
Yeah, always so perturbed and shocked by the experience that he goes and finds God and never touches crypto again. Who knows?
Nah.
Yeah.
Not happening. All right. Next tweet of the week is this one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, pump.fun, the absolute state of the trenches. Just crazy.
It's a live stream feature. They need to turn that off, man. This is what's trended in Twitter today. That was, the biggest news. Obviously, there's so much other stuff out there, so much stuff that we can't obviously show. But it's like, I think that. Look, I mean, there's this debate around, should you be censoring stuff? Permissionless crypto should be permissionless and all this kind of stuff. But to be honest, when this is what's being represented as the industry, you don't want people to get this perception of crypto. And I think it just brings out, unfortunately, when you create financial incentives as well, it brings out the worst in people sometimes to incentivize and do this stuff. So I think that pump.fun can just kill the live stream feature.
Yeah, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely wild. I mean, I won't go into some of the stuff that was happening on there, but it was, next level degeneracy. Okay, so that's the state of the trenches. Next up, we have this one. I really enjoyed this one. Good old game of Guess Who.
I'm telling you, that video when he was like, there is no second best. What are you talking about? I'm telling you, 100%. You're up the line. that was it. Just before that interview,
Yeah. Well, it certainly did him good, you could argue. But that's old. Did you ever play that game, Guess Who? By the way,
no,
Guy. They don't have that in South Africa.
Yeah, I don't know. This is long before my time. What is Guess? I play Battleship, bro. What Guess Who?
Too busy going out and hunting lions and eating raw meat, perhaps. Okay, and all right. And do we have one more tweet of the week?
Oh, yes. I wonder why. So they Coinbase delisting WBTC, which is interesting because they're suspending it because they say it doesn't meet their listing standards. And I wonder if it's anything to do with the fact that they're going to be rolling out their own tokenized Bitcoin on Base. Could it possibly be in relation to that, Guy? Do you think? I wonder.
Possibly, Nick. Possibly. Maybe you're overthinking it.
Coincidence.
Maybe.
To be honest, I think the listing standards and WBTC standards dropped so much at that particular point. I mean, that specific period of time that, it's just so much of a coincidence. It's a coincidence, man. Total coincidence.
Surely. Yeah, must be. Absolutely. All right. Okay. Well, that is pretty much it, guys. Just having a look through some of your feedback. Well, basically, it seems like we fixed the audio issues from last week. So thanks for bearing with us. Lobster Fusion had a question. I think this is a good one. I think it's not too early to start talking about this. When do you guys start taking profits? I mean, I'd be interested to hear what you think on this one, Nick. Me personally, my plan is I'm not planning to take any profits really in this year because I think next year is when we're going to see the real action. But I have price targets set on kind of pretty much everything I'm holding, which do change. But I kind of think sort of Q2 2025 is when I'm kind of roughly targeting. Is that the same for you, Nick?
Yeah, about so. But I guess the question also comes down to everyone's got their own perspectives, right? I think that you shouldn't really be viewing it as I'm not taking profits because I think we could get more gains from here. If you've set yourself very specific targets in terms of your own personal, what your goals in the crypto space. You wanted to get enough profit to be able to do something with the money, buy a house, save, invest in your kid's college fund or whatever. You should take that profit, because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You shouldn't allow the perspective of FOMO to drive it up, because, even though I still think Bitcoin's going way higher, I think next year is going to be explosive. I don't want the opportunity cost means something for me. Someone else may have made some life-changing gains for them, and everyone's got a different perspective of what's a life-changing gain for them, right? It can be hundreds of thousands, could be millions. Take that profit if you can, and don't have to take all profit. You can DCA out as well, so you can take some profit, take some money off the table. So it all really comes down to your own personal circumstances, your goal for investing in crypto, your availability of liquid cash for other things. But yeah, me personally, I don't think any time until at least second half of next year, depending on market conditions, etc.
Yeah, we are just getting warmed up. But yeah, have a plan and stick to it. Have a realistic plan and stick to it as well. The Coin Bureau trading channel has slipped into the comments as well. Guys, if you don't know about that, the trading channel is kicking off at the moment. We've got 3 amazing analysts there, Dan, Mariano, and Aaron. Absolute gigabrains, each one of them. So do check out Coin Bureau Trading, because those guys have got some serious alpha over there.
Break 40K this week, and they're also doing we're doing weekly live streams now with other contributors as well. And this is kind of the stuff that you guys, if you want the breaking news, kind of like, especially with what today actionable information, trading channel is where you got to be going.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin has some sentiments that I think a lot of people are feeling. Not mad at the boom, but just wish I had more time to buy more crypto before it happened. Trust me, Kevin, everyone feels like that.
You can't, harping on about what you could have, should have, whatever, it's just, it is what it is,
Yeah, like I say, Kevin, if it's any consolation, pretty much, I don't think there's a single person in crypto who's ever, when you get a pump like this, gone, do you know what? I think I'm sufficiently allocated. I think I'm good. It's everyone always regrets not allocating more. So you're not alone there. Okay. Jimmy had this. Gary probably just left, so he didn't have to listen to Trump say "you're fired" repeated 1 million times by mainstream media.
I was actually hoping for that as well. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
The Apprentice SEC version. The Apprentice.
Yeah. He should
out there in Washington.
actually summoned Gary to the White House and done it on camera. That would have been. I'd have watched that. Okay, and lastly, this one from Scott Stewart. Scott definitely looks like someone's uncle. How's your magic internet money doing, nephew? That's as we said, that's going to be the question on so many people's lips at Thanksgiving this week, and we wish those people well. Yeah,
just try and retain the smugness. Just try and hold it off. don't monopolize the entire conversation, but it will come up, and then it's going to be gone. Off to the races. All about Bitcoin. The sailor pitch.
Yeah. Stay classy, stay thankful, stay humble, folks. Anyhow, that is, I think, a good point at which to wrap it up. Nick, it's been great to see you. Bit of a change in dynamic not being in the same room together, but it seems to work all right.
Yeah, and the team is missing you here, Guy. Where's our quirky character?
I am missing the team likewise.
Same without you, man.
Lot
quieter though.
What's that?
Lot quieter, easier to work.
Yeah, without me blithering away. Well, maybe I'll stay away a bit longer. Who knows? Yes. Well, we will be back next week, guys, and we're looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the week ahead. I've got a feeling it could be a bit of a crazy one.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Enjoy the gains.
See you then.
Cheers.
The open mouth are back. That means bull market. Give me some of that drug punk. I was insane clown posse of crypto. What's all this about ICP is insane clown posse making a return. Bye, Chancellor. Gary, you're fired. Hasta la vista, Gary, Chancellor can't apply to work in KFC. Keep up the great Watchmen. Bye-bye, Chancellor. Carry your fire. Hasta la vista, Gary. Gary Chancellor can apply to work in KFC. Bye-bye, Chancellor. Mr. Virtual Fire. Gary can work for Coin Bureau.
Please, no! No!